So when you create stuff now, when you create data visualizations, now they have to be truthful. You cannot, and not even incidentally, oh, my x-axis, I messed it up a little bit. I mean, you gotta check that stuff, because you'll lose your credibility. If you put out these awful data visualizations, oh man. I will find you, I swear to God. I'm just kidding. All right. Should I read this? I will. I'm going to read this to you. I put this in here. This is Tufte's words. I think it's the end of his book or something, but I will read it to you for entertainment purposes. It's important, and you get like the inflection of it, I guess, a little bit, right? So let's go. Design is choice. And he's talking about design. Creative design. That's what we're going for, this creative design of data visualizations. The theory of visual display of quantitative information consists of principles that generate options and guide choices among options. The principles should not be applied rigidly or in a peevish spirit, right? Like the grammar. I'm not going to say that. Okay, so the people that are very particular about grammar, like you said this word wrong or something, you get very frustrated by it. Like, these principles are not meant for the backseat driver to pick on people with. Like, you're allowed to break these rules, but you have to have a reason, right? Like, you've got to know why you're doing something differently. There has to be a good reason for it, but you're allowed, right? It should not be applied rigidly, inflexibly, or in a peevish spirit. They are not logically or mathematically certain. These are concepts of design, creativity, and creation and innovation and new ideas. So, new ideas are never going to be certain from the start. We can't create something and prove it in the same breath. It is better to violate any principle than to place graceless or inelegant marks on paper. What he's saying is, what I'm teaching you, if you cannot deviate, eventually you will fall victim to just a rigid understand. You're dogmatic. You're not tapping into your human brain to solve the problem. You're just going line by line through Tufte's book, being like, if I just do what Tufte did, then I will be right. You won't. That's what he's saying. Like, you can't follow me blindly, and things will change. And he might be wrong. He's not God. Most principles of design should be greeted with some skepticism. We always should use skepticism, obviously. For word authority can dominate our vision, and we may come to see only through the lenses of word authority rather than our own eyes. So, okay. We have to be independent. Each of us data visualization professionals have to create our data visualization art masterpieces out of what we think is right. We cannot listen to the expert on high. I mean, we listen to them, but we think for ourselves, and we are skeptical, and we create what our vision, what we see, what needs to be created. We don't just bow down to the authorities. And this is analogous. The only thing I can think of is in the late 18th century in France, right? And France at that time was leading the art world. I mean, all the greatest artists in the world wanted to go to France and smoke cigarettes and paint paintings and be cool. And they were cool, right? But the young people, the young artists and the impressionists and modern artists, they were ostracized by the high French art schools. That had these, this is what art is. You have to draw, it's either got to be Greek mythology, something from the Bible, or, like Romans, or, it's got to be this classical, and all of these paintings, they have to be as detailed as possible, and they have to represent the world as closely as possible. It should be like you're looking through a high definition photograph. I mean, that's what these art school places were saying, and they never had any turnover in professors, and they never had any new ideas, and it had been this way for 100 years. And there's like these young, artists that were, partying, and they just said, to hell with you, and we're gonna make art, and we'll sell it. And then some of these brilliant art collectors and art patrons, were able to see the genius because the structure in the art, the high art community and the art academies in France were just rotten. You know what I mean? And they were boxing out all of the genius. And those young artists changed the world. And that time may come for they changed the art world. They changed the world in general. They just opened people's imaginations in a way, and they won. You know what I mean? Like nobody remembers those, the chief guy at the highest French art school from 100 years ago. People know Van Gogh, and people know these brilliant, Matisse and these other impressionists that did it. And they're legends, right? And we've got to come with that skepticism. Like if your art is art and you know that it's great and you can explain it, just don't listen to other people. Like go for it yourself. Go for it. Defend your work. Defend your work. Always. If you believe in it. But you shouldn't be putting out work that you're not ready to defend. To wrap up, what is to be sought in the designs for the display of information is the clear portrayal of complexity. Okay, we've seen the data sets. They're complex. They are substantial. They're complicated. They're dirty. They're messy. There's noise. There's errors. There's missing values. You've got to get rid of all of that. You've got to clean it up, get it ready, figure out what it means, figure out how to communicate it, how to create, and make the complex simple. That is what Tufte's saying. Make the complex simple. We are taking something that is complex and difficult and making it accessible to the CEO or to the world. Your New York Times data visualization that 20 million people will see. Complex to the simple. Not the complication of the simple, rather the task of the designer is to give visual access to the subtle and the difficult. That is the revelation of the complex. Okay? You're giving revelations because to a non-data scientist, knowing what is happening inside those ones and zeros is a revelation because, again, they're illiterate. They can't read it themselves. They don't know the algorithms. They don't know how to analyze. They don't know what's important and what's not. They don't have the patience. They don't love it, so they don't do it. But you do. It's your job, and you have to reveal to them.